Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Level Up Law. We are live, and today we will be talking about 5 things to know when online shopping goes wrong. You know, Black Friday is coming, and there's a lot to know about your rights when it comes to online shopping. So we'll be talking about that for just a short time and giving you some information and some good handouts that may be helpful to you. But before we get started, I do want to remind you that this is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public. But if you have issues with this subject matter, you can always apply for legal aid and see if you're eligible, and we'll provide all that information at the end of this presentation. In addition, if you are watching us live or if you are watching the replay on YouTube, just know that we post these presentations that we do every Tuesday at noon. And I'm here with our producer, Kenneth Elliott, from our South Carolina Legal Services IT department. And I am Susan Ingalls, Senior Staff Attorney and Consumer Law Unit Head. So you'll be able to find this presentation on our YouTube channel pretty quickly. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with 5 things to know when online shopping goes wrong. The first thing, just in general, that you need to know is that you do have rights. Sometimes when you're dealing with people online or on the telephone, there's sometimes not a whole lot you can do. And you might feel helpless to get a seller to do what they should do for you if there's been a problem. So it's important to know that you do have rights in these situations. So let's talk about the 5 things that may be important to you when shopping online. So first of all, what happens if you never got the order that you made, but the charge appears on your credit card? Well, in this case, the Fair Credit Billing Act applies. That's federal law that covers credit card issues, the billing that you get from your credit card. So what it does is it treats certain charges on your statement as billing error if you dispute it. But there's some rules that go along with that disputing. First of all, you have to dispute the charge within 60 days of that first statement that shows it. So that's real important. You should always look at your credit card statements. A lot of folks now have their credit card statements online. They don't even get the paper statement anymore. But it's still important to look at your statement so that you can make sure that there's not something on there that is not a charge of yours. And that's particularly true when you've ordered something, when you've not ordered. If you have ordered something online, but you haven't gotten the item, but there's the charge on your credit card. So what you have to do within 60 days is file a dispute either online or by telephone. Either one of those ways will work, but always send a letter also. It's still important to have paper copies of things. In this digital world, things get lost or removed, or maybe there's a hack and information is lost. So it's important to have something in writing that you've printed out so you've got the evidence of your dispute. So when you do that letter, it needs to be sent by certified mail. The address to use is going to be on your credit card statement. You know, one of the rules in the law now is that the credit card company does have to give you that address in particular of where those disputes are supposed to be sent. You know, there's all kinds of addresses now. They've got to tell you which one is the right one to make that dispute. And of course, remember to send that letter within the 60 days. Don't just call or email or file online and think that it's okay for the 60 days to pass. Do that letter within the 60 days also. Now, one thing to mention about this 60-day rule is that the 60 days is a cutoff date for the credit card company to do something that they are required to do, which is to investigate what you're saying and determine if in fact there has been a billing error, and then to make that correction. Now, sometimes if you have been sued for a credit card debt, the credit card company or the debt collector might raise the fact that you did not dispute a statement within 60 days. That doesn't remove your ability to still question whether or not that was a legitimate charge or whether or not you've already paid it or anything like that. So keep that distinction in mind if you are in a situation where you've been sued for a balance that you owe on a credit card. You can still dispute it, and the statute of limitations for the lawsuit by your credit card issuer is 3 years. Okay, so let's say that it's after the 60 days. Well, the Fair Credit Billing Act is not going to be able to be enforced by you if it's after the 60 days. However, sometimes a credit card company will extend that 60 days. In other words, they'll still do what they're supposed to do under the Fair Credit Billing Act, even if you've gone beyond the 60 days. That's usually going to be if there was a delay in the shipment, so the 60 days is kind of different. Or if you did agree to a delivery date, like a revised delivery date because it was delayed, and that takes it beyond that 60 days from when it showed up on your statement. Either way, send the dispute letter anyway. Just go ahead and send it, include all the paperwork that you have, and hopefully the credit card company will take it off. They're just not required to if it's after the 60 days. Okay, number 2, it's important to think about if you used a debit card to make an online purchase. They are really different because it's like taking cash money out of your bank account. It's not a credit card. Sometimes it can be used as a credit card, so that's a little bit different. But you got different protections that apply when it comes to a debit card because it's more the bank account rules as opposed to the credit card rules. So you might not be able to get a refund if the item wasn't delivered, or if a wrong item was delivered and you want a refund. So it's always probably better to use a credit card if you're going to make an online purchase. But if you have used a debit card, just contact the bank or whoever issued the debit card. It may not always be a bank. Just as soon as you know that there's a problem, or it may not be your bank, they might voluntarily do something for you to get things corrected or credited. So just call the customer service line. And again, it's important to follow up with a letter, certified letter, laying out everything that has happened and all of the paperwork that you have that shows that this is not an authorized charge. Okay, number 3. Let's say you received some merchandise that you didn't order, and that does happen. So the law is that a company cannot send you some item that you didn't order and then ask you for payment. So they can't do that. Now, if they have sent you an item that you didn't order, you got really 3 choices, or 3 kind of rules of thumb that apply. You don't have to pay for it, even though they might demand payment later. They might call you and say, oh, well, you received the item and you didn't send it back, or you didn't let us know that that wasn't ordered by you, so now you have to pay. They can't do that. If they send you an unordered item, you're not obligated to pay them. So you don't have to pay them. You're not required to return it, even though they might call you on the phone and say you have to, and if you didn't, you now have to pay for it. That's just not how that plays out. And the third thing is you can keep it as a free gift. You can keep the item that they sent to you. You may not want to, but there's no reason for you to either pay for it or try to return it, especially if that's going to cost you something to do because you didn't ask for it. Now, a couple of other things, they can send you merchandise if it's clearly marked as a gift or a free sample. Okay? And you don't have to do anything to keep that gift or free sample, because sometimes if you do, it might say, oh, this is a free sample, but if you want to order, go online and fill in your information. So you don't want to do that. Give any of your personal information, because it may end up being that you get billed for that gift or free sample, even though that's really not allowed. So be careful about that. A lot of scammers out there. Okay, and then the other thing when you get merchandise that you didn't order is that charitable organizations, nonprofits, can send merchandise and then ask you for a contribution or a donation. But you can also, you're not required to make the donation. Sometimes we get a really nice free gift in the mail and we're not in a position to make a contribution or donation or don't want to or whatever. So you shouldn't feel bad about that, because many people receive those free gifts and don't make that donation. So if you're not able to, don't do that. You're totally able to keep that free gift, and you have no obligation whatsoever to make a donation. All right, number 4. I can never say it enough that you really need to read the terms and conditions, and this is true whether it's online, in the mail, or anything. Anytime you are going to order something, sign a contract, in any way obligate yourself to pay money, you really need to read the terms and conditions of whatever you are signing, whether it be a contract or the terms and conditions of making an online purchase. We so often, because we're in a hurry, and that's why we're doing the online shopping, that little checkbox comes up and says, click here to say that you have read the terms and conditions. And literally right by the box it says, I have read and accepted the terms and conditions. Well, have you even looked at them? You should, because you're going to be held to those terms and conditions when you click that box and say, I have read the terms and conditions. And we often have people who have been disappointed in, something that happened with an order through, Amazon or some department store, anything like that. You have to have read those terms and conditions so you know the good and the bad of what might happen. Because they definitely are going to be covering the bad eventualities that may happen. So this can also be happen on eBay. When you buy something on eBay, there's terms and conditions there. You need to read that so you know what's going to happen if that sale goes wrong, or that purchase or sale goes wrong. So here's some things to just remember. Again, always look at the terms and conditions, but if you can't find them, if they didn't have a checkbox for you, or if there's a checkbox and you actually look at the terms and conditions like we would want you to, but maybe you can't understand them. It's a bunch of gobbledygook. It's pages and pages of fine print, and you just don't, you can't understand it. You can't read through all of it. Don't make the purchase. Okay? Don't make the online purchase if you don't know what the terms and conditions are, unless you're willing to accept the terms and conditions no matter what they are, because you won't know what they are. One important thing to look for, though, when you are reading the terms and conditions is figuring out how to cancel an order. Okay, that's particularly true if you've ordered something, or you've ordered something that's a recurring shipment even. You need to know how you can cancel that order. Is there a limit on the time for canceling it, and so forth? So look for that kind of information. And then mark your calendar for any kind of online shopping that you do. It may be that you trust in the company, you've worked with them before, but things can go wrong, even with the best intentions on both sides. So you really do need to protect yourself, keep all that information, um, and especially keep information about when you ordered it, when you're supposed to get it. You know, if you paid an expedited fee for it to be delivered on a certain day, you keep all of that particular information, invoice, shipping label, and so forth, because you want to know on your calendar how much time you have for your refund rights or revised delivery date rights and that sort of thing. And then finally, just a reminder about reading things, and that is your credit and debit account statements. Again, as I mentioned before, you know, a lot of people get those now online. They don't want all that paper in the mailbox, and that's totally fine. But sometimes it's a lot easier to not read it when it's coming to you online rather than in paper. So look at your statement and make sure that there's not something on there that you have been charged for that you didn't order. Just always know the terms and conditions. And number 5, we're going to talk about shipping rules. And this number 5 is a little bit longer because there's a merchandise rule that applies, and there's some very specific scenarios that you're protected in. So let's talk about shipping dates first of all. So a seller is required to ship your order within the time that it says it will. If they promise a time, if they don't promise a time, in particular when you order it, they have to ship the order within 30 days of when you place the order. Now that clock starts when they get your order and they get your name and address and they have your payment. That's when that clock starts for the shipment. Now, if they don't promise a shipping time and they say, you know, we'll do the best we can, or it'll be within 10 to 15 days or something vague, and you've applied for in-house credit, you know how sometimes when you go to a website for the first time and they have a credit card or a way for you to apply for credit for the item that you're getting, if you have applied for credit to pay for the item and you're not paying with your own charge card, then they've got an additional 20 days before you are to get the item that you've purchased. And that's so that they can have time to, you know, check your credit, set up that account, and so forth. But if they do promise a shipping time, it has to ship within that time, despite whether there's still a pending in-house credit application or not. So it's really important to get a specific shipping date or, you know, arrival date if you can, so you can rely on that. Okay, now we'll talk about shipping rules when it comes to delays. Okay, if they can't ship an item within the time that they said they would, then they have to let you know that. And they have to give you a new shipping date. Or if for some reason they can't give you a new date, they've got to you know, explain the reason for the delay. They got to give you a chance to cancel the order and get a full refund. They've got to let you know your rights on that in particular. So if you don't respond and the delay is 30 days or less, they can assume that you're accepting that delay. It's okay with you. You can wait for the item. You're not making any demand about canceling the order or anything like that. Now, if you don't respond and the delay is more than 30 days, then the seller has to cancel the order the 30th day of the delay period and give you a full refund. Now, if they can't meet the new shipping date, then they have to notify you again. We're not going to be able to meet, you're not going to get your item, we're not going to be able to meet that shipping date, and you have the right to either cancel the order and get a full refund, or we can give you a new shipping date. We have to disclose that to you. So if they can't meet the new shipping date, again, they cancel the order, give you a full refund, unless you say that you're willing to wait. And again, if you don't respond, they have to assume that you're not willing to wait, and they should issue a full refund promptly. Refunds when it comes to shipping. Okay, if you paid by cash, check, money order, or a credit card, the seller has to give you a refund within 7 working days after you cancel the order. Okay, you got to make the cancellation, and then they've got 7 days for the refund. If you paid with that kind of in-house credit thing, then they have to credit your account, and that has to be done within 1 billing cycle after you cancel the order. So that's when that time clock starts to tick, is when you actually make the cancellation. Okay, now here is where all of those rules come from, okay? And there's a lot of very detailed and specific parts of the rule, and I'm just sort of summarizing them, so to speak. So if you have an issue, this is the rule that you need to look at, and we will include a link to the rule down below when we upload this video to YouTube. The mail, internet, or telephone order merchandise rule. This is a federal rule. CFR, it means Code of Federal Regulations. And so this is where all these rules that I've been talking about come from. Interestingly, this rule was amended back in 2014. It's hard to believe that it wasn't done before that, but that's when they amended the rule to include internet sales under this rule. It used to just be the mail or telephone order merchandise rule. Now it's mail, internet, or telephone order merchandise rule. So just some examples of how those rules work under this rule. Let's talk about one example of your rights under the rule when it comes to shipping dates. So if you don't adhere to the shipping rules that are provided there, it can constitute an unfair method of competition and an unfair or deceptive act or practice for a seller. And what that means is that the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, can enforce this rule against a company that's doing that and committing these deceptive acts or practices. So some examples are if they have not properly represented the time it will take for an item to arrive. If they've revised a shipping date is given, but it's not based on a reasonable basis. And another one is saying they cannot make any representation about the length of a delay without a reasonable basis. If they have a reasonable basis for a delay, then they have to tell you that. And then you have the right, as I mentioned before, to either decline the item at that point, cancel the order, or allow a revised shipping date. But they can't misrepresent any of that. They have to have a reasonable basis for a delay that they're telling you about. And when it comes to the enforcement, they are required to have records that back all that up, whether it be computer records where they have made notations, email exchanges with you, and that sort of thing, you know, an order form, a shipping form, whatever it may be. They have to have those records to back up what they did and what they said or didn't say. And if they don't have that, then it is assumed that they did not have a reasonable basis for what they did. And that's what we call a rebuttable presumption. So we presume that they didn't have a reasonable basis, but they do have the right in court to explain why there's no documentation or why there was a reasonable basis despite their lack of documentation of that reasonable basis. And similar protections to that exist for these other things we've talked about. Delays where there's a new shipping date, and then providing refunds. So like an example with delays under the rule is that the seller must inform the buyer of their right to accept the delay or cancel the order with a full refund. Another example when it comes to delays with a new or revised shipping date, the seller must within a reasonable time, clearly and conspicuously offer the buyer a renewed option to consent to a further delay or cancel the order and receive a prompt refund. And these notifications all have to be clear and conspicuous. And then providing for refunds. Sellers must provide the refund as long as you have given them an appropriate notification under the rules in canceling the order. So those are just there's a lot more detail than that in that rule. So anytime you have a problem like this, you should just go look at the rule and click down below on the link, and you'll probably be able to find the situation, the exact situation that you have and everything that applies for you. What the rule doesn't apply to, there's a few items that you might be buying that this rule does not cover. And that is subscriptions, like subscriptions to magazines or something like that. That's not a purchase that applies under this rule, even though you might be making it online. If you order seeds or growing plants, this rule does not apply. And it also doesn't apply if it's a COD or collect on delivery basis, so you don't pay for it until it arrives. And then one other item that doesn't apply to is these transactions that are called pre-notification negative option plans, and that's something that is completely different and not applicable to the rules we're talking about today or the situation that you might have today. So it's always good to know those specific situations where a rule doesn't apply. So this is a nice little infographic that the Federal Trade Commission has that just gives you the general overview of what your rights are under the merchandise rule. And so we'll have a link to that, a PDF of that down below as well, so you can look for that, and that can kind of give you an idea of where exactly in the rule you need to go for those details of your own situation. Well, that's the end of the information on online shopping and what your rights are. There's so many other things that this presentation could cover, but we just wanted to focus in on mostly what's covered under the merchandise rule that we talked about. So if you have any other issues regarding online shopping that you would like us to talk about in another presentation, please do make a comment down below, and we do look at those from time to time. We try to keep up with them to see if you have questions or we can be helpful. So definitely let us know if there are other things. I do want to just give you a little bit of a bonus for today and let you know about something to watch out for when it comes to the online shopping world, and that is Amazon impersonators. Some of you may have received one of those text messages or emails that says, oh, your Amazon package is out for delivery, or it's been delayed. Please click here for more details. And you might say, I don't have anything that I have ordered from Amazon that I haven't already received. So that should be your first clue that this is a scam. Sometimes they will be wanting to just confirm a recent purchase, and that's what we see a lot of. But it's a purchase that you didn't make, or they might tell you that your Amazon account has been hacked. That's definitely going to be a scammer, because you're going to be notified in a better way than that. But I think it's important to know, to think about this, because the FTC reported that since July 2020 up until now, 1 in 3 people who have reported a business impersonator scam have reported a scammer that pretended to be Amazon. So there's so many people out there that are ordering on Amazon and getting various notifications or options to track your package and that sort of thing. So be super careful when it comes to messages that supposedly are from Amazon, but may very well be from a scammer. If you've saved your record of any orders that you made, because you might have an order that's still outstanding, check that order and then just contact Amazon yourself and see what the status of the order is. Don't respond to a text message or to a email about something like that, other than making a call or contact yourself based on an order that you made. So that is my little extra tip for today. You can see on your screen all the information for South Carolina Legal Services. You can apply for our assistance on these type of matters or others, see if you're eligible. We represent people who are low income or special populations. And the best way to find out if we can help you out is to call that intake line. We have great operators who get your information and help us assess the situation to see if we can help you. You can also apply online, and we actually have a YouTube video from a Level Up Law episode that gives you some tips on the best way to do that. Also, just watch our websites and social media. We're always giving out all kinds of information beyond what we do here on Level Up Law. So check all that out. And when you go to those social media platforms, be sure to follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe for more. Sign up for those alerts because we do Level Up Law every Tuesday at noon. And we upload those episodes on a weekly basis. So you'll get notified of any upload of a new episode that you may not have known about or may not have been able to watch. So it's really important for us for you to subscribe to our channel so that we can do more of this. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate it. And just remember, we will see you again next Tuesday at noon for another episode of Level Up Law. That concludes the webinar for today. Thanks for watching.